We obviously had a big announcement this morning to kick off the day, and we are now joined by Ed Laukes, David Wilson, and Denny Hamlin. So they will be taking your questions. We are recording today's session, so if you would like a link of the session, please just reach out to myself or Cody, and we'll send you the link when this is completed. We do ask that you use the hand raise tool if you have a question, and we'll get to you. And we also request that you keep it to 2 questions when it is your turn. And if you have additional questions, just please raise your hand again. And if we have time, we will circle back to you. So with that, Ed, I will let you kind of open us up. Just talk about the significance of the announcement today of 2311 Racing fielding Toyota Camrys starting in the 21 season.
Yeah, thanks, Lisa. First of all, Lisa, thanks for putting this together. You know, this is quite unusual circumstances, but I think everybody's kind of getting used to the Zoom and Teams, and it's actually pretty productive for some of us. But I just want to say thanks to everybody for joining. And Denny did a great job this morning on CBS with Bubba. The significance for Toyota obviously is gives us a chance to be able to do a couple of things. Number one is to partner with Denny and also with Michael Jordan on another team to expand the Toyota footprint in the NASCAR Cup Series, which is always big. To help Denny as being our driver partner for these many years to be able to realize his dream for the future by setting the tone for him to move into a position of ownership. And then thirdly, with Bubba is to give us a chance to be able for him to showcase his skills in what will be some world-class equipment. And we have such a great relationship with Bubba going back to when he was with Rev Racing and with KBM. Matter of fact, I still have a picture of Bubba that he sent to me with a Martinsville clock that was a very special moment when he won Martinsville. And anyway, and he's always driven a Lexus, even though he had moved over to the other team. So one of the other manufacturers. So we love to have Bubba back with us again. And we think he's going to be a great ambassador for the sport. Obviously, he's got huge weight on his shoulders relative to being the only African-American driver in the Cup Series. But, we think Bubba's positioned well to be able to continue on and represent both the 23 team as well as Toyota, and with the relationships along the way. So that's pretty much it. Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks, Ed. David, I'll toss it to you from a TRD perspective. Can you just talk about the significance of having another great team fielding TRD engines for us?
Yeah, it's. I think Ed really covered it off. For TRD in particular, of course, our model is to get right in there and get our hands dirty and look for areas where we can directly contribute to each of our team partners. Obviously, the engine part of it is obvious, but certainly our support goes well beyond that. I think with this team, with Denny and Michael, trying to get their feet underneath them, particularly for this first year, it's going to even be more critical. This is something that Denny and I talked about, as this plan was formulating. And again, it gives TRD, I think, a great opportunity to wade in there and help this young team get their feet settled.
Perfect. And of course, our new team owner, Denny, what does it mean to continue kind of the relationship with Toyota after, spending so many years with us already and sort of taking it on to the next level?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I get asked questions all the time during media availability and obviously meet and greets and whatnot. What do you want to do after you're done racing? And for me, it's always been, well, I want to run a business. I don't know what that business might be. It might be a trailer shop, it might be a car dealership. I don't know, and I never knew. But I think that this is something that I'm going to be very, very passionate about, very hands-on. I've seen the success that my boss has had and how hard he works at it to be successful. And it's going to be more than a hobby for me. It's going to be my day job one day, and I want to be the guy that's at the shop just like Joe is at 8 o'clock every morning, calling sponsors, calling the manufacturers, walking down, talking to the employees, trying to figure out how we can make our race cars go faster and This is just exciting for me because I see my future now. Like this is going to be something that's going to be around for a very long time, and I'm excited about the partnership that the partners that we have just in our first year.
Excellent. Thank you, gentlemen. Well, we will go ahead and jump into questions. We will start with Bob Hawkris. Go ahead, Bob.
Yeah, I have one for Ed and then one for Denny. Ed, obviously you have a budget, but when Michael Jordan comes along, does that allow you to increase your budget? And do you have diversity kind of earmarked funds that you can use for this program?
Yeah, Bob, we have the reality is that whether it been Michael Jordan or any other partner, Toyota has been supportive of diversity in racing for a long time. So there's zero impact from a budget perspective. We're handling like we would any other team, and putting the support from TRD along with helping along from an engineering perspective. As far as any other type of assistance along the way, those are things that that we're working between ourselves. But it's not. This is not considered what we would call a traditional Toyota diversity sponsorship. That really is not. That's really not the end game here. I think Denny, I'd love for you to ask Denny about his vision for what the future of the team's going to look like, because this team is designed not only to have Bubba be the cornerstone at the beginning, but for the future, we want to win. And Denny wants to win. And that's the cornerstone of the organization in order to be successful. And Denny and I have had many, many conversations about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that to tag on what Ed's saying is that they're in the business of winning and winning championships. And so I want to be able to contribute to that. I am way too competitive. And anybody that knows me knows that I don't do anything just halfway. I make sure that I do it the right way. I'm trying to do that right from year one. It will take time. I mean, ultimately, to build this into the organization like a Joe Gibbs Racing, it takes a lot of time. And so we have to be patient as far as that's concerned. But I believe that we're putting the best team that's possibly available on one. So I'm pretty confident that we're going to have the parts and the pieces that we need to do it. My vision is well beyond just a one-car team, and hopefully we can execute and continue to grow year after year.
And Denny, I'm a little bit more interested in short term. Do you have a shop, and do the cars from LFR just get rolled to your shop, or how's that going to work?
No, I mean, we'll have new cars from JGR. Obviously we, even in our 11 team, we'll run some cars next year that race this year. So they really don't have any designated place to them. So when they go back to the race shop, like I've ran 95 cars this year, and 95 cars probably have run 11 cars this year. So that's kind of how that works, where the chassis isn't designated to one organization. It's a and you get that number, and so that's kind of the way that works. But yeah, as far as the race shop, we're going to work out of the Germain building next year, and while we work on our building vision, I guess, for 2022 and beyond. So like I say, that's something that's probably going to be a temporary place for us while we work on plans for a facility for the future.
Not the Germain shop at RCR, but the one they own, correct, in Mooresville? Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Bob. Next, we'll go to Jenna Fryer. Go ahead, Jenna.
Hey, I got two questions for Denny. You said your vision is beyond a one-car team. Have you started looking at getting another charter? Do you anticipate that being a big hurdle?
I don't think it, listen, you'll always be able to get one. It's just a matter of what they're going to cost. But I think that if you're going to have two teams, you need to do it. You need to really start thinking about it, probably at least 10 months in advance of the next season. Obviously, we put this together in a very short amount of time. You're looking at 5 months between when we got a deal done and when we need to be essentially at Daytona putting a race-winning car on the track. So everything's working fast forward right now for us behind the scenes. But yeah, I mean, certainly the vision is to go to multiple cars as soon as possible.
In the statement today, in the press release, Michael's statement says, "My main goal for 2311 Racing is to be competitive for a championship as soon as possible." Everybody knows Michael likes to win. He doesn't really settle for anything but winning, but winning is very hard in NASCAR, particularly for a first-year team. So how do you temper that with him, and what sort of expectations are realistic for a first-year team?
You know, realistically, we want to contend for race wins. That'll be the first obstacle, is show that we can run top 5, and then contend from there. I mean, you know, I don't think I have a specific number goal, whether it be a points finish or a race wins or top 5s or top 10s. I just want to see that we are competitive. And if we're not, you've got an insider such as myself at Joe Gibbs Racing that knows what it takes to be competitive. So that's a little bit of an advantage that this race team will have. You know, I envision this a lot like what Tony did with Stewart Haas. You know, that organization kind of ran middle to back of the pack for most of the time. When he came over there, he brought winning and relevance to it. And all of a sudden, very good people started wanting to work for him. And they started to build, and they started to build. And next thing you know, they've got a championship and race winning organization just a few years later. So that's where I see this going for us.
Thanks, Denny. Ed, I'll get back to you when I'm allowed to ask another question.
Go ahead, Jenna. You can go ahead and get
I'll come back. I'll stick to the two.
Hey, no, yeah. Put her to the back. Raise your hand like everyone else.
All right, we will circle back to Jenna. We will go ahead to Jordan. Go ahead, Jordan.
Hi, guys. I have 2 questions. This one's probably first for David and Ed. How is this alliance going to be structured, or is this alliance going to be structured differently than previous alliances that Joe Gibbs Racing has had? And are there things that you guys have done previously that you're going to do differently, or mistakes that you guys have made that you've learned from that you're going to apply going forward?
Yeah, I'll start off. Go ahead, Ed.
Dave, I'll let Dave answer that question, but one of the things that I think I'd like to have him talk about a little bit is the success of Furniture Row after we partnered with them, and what the type of race team they were beforehand, because that comes up quite a bit in social media, as you know. So Dave, go ahead and do that, but I think it's important that we just make sure we get that out of and have a conversation about that.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, for some reason, the term alliance has almost taken on a negative connotation, and I think it's partially because they are so inherently difficult to do well, and to, you know, for an alliance to be considered successful, both parties have to realize something from it. The fact is, as Ed pointed out, we've had one of the most successful partnerships, alliances, whatever you want to call it, that we put together between Furniture Row and Joe Gibbs Racing, and obviously that produced a championship, some 16 odd wins with Martin Truex Jr. So we know what a successful partnership looks like. But what I'll say to, you know, specifically Jordan, is that each team comes to the plate with different needs, with different resources, different assets, and there's not a standard template, one size fits all. With Michael and Denny, given that it's a true startup, they're literally putting the building blocks in place right now. So I think the role that we'll play is going to even be more critical. Denny referenced, you know, one of the advantages is that, you know, he literally strolls the halls of Joe Gibbs Racing, you know, on a weekly basis. So he has the access, and that's a truly unique experience. Certainly, he hasn't shied away from picking up the phone and calling either me or Ed. And again, we are looking forward and certainly embracing one of Toyota's core values, which is continuous improvement. The way we did it in the past, whether it's with Furniture Row, with LFR, we know we learned a lot from, and we learned some of the pitfalls. And I think those experiences will serve us to provide the type of support that this young team needs.
Jordan, did you have a follow-up, or are you all set? Jordan? All right, we will circle back to Jordan. We might have lost him. All right, next we will head to Jeff Black. Go ahead, Jeff.
Yeah, when Steve Phelps had been asked maybe a month or two ago now about the possibility of Denny being a team owner, obviously with working within the four car cap rule, he said, well, we have to be satisfied that it's not just a fifth JGR car. So did you have to say anything to NASCAR to alleviate any concerns that wouldn't be the case?
Yeah, it was pretty simple from our standpoint. The way that the rule is meant to be interpreted is basically it's not a JGR fifth car, so they're not providing services to us for free, which essentially would be that they're deeming this an extra car in that sense. So they're not providing us the cars for free, and everything is independent. So we're not using any of their staff. So essentially, we hire it's all our own organization. We have our own payroll. We have our own vendors that we have to pay. So this organization stands on its own as far as that's concerned. That was one of the criteria. It has to stand on its own.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Mm-hmm.
Thanks, Jeff. Next, we'll go to Jim Utter. Go ahead, Jim.
Hey, Denny. I was just wondering, we've seen some new owners come in recently. We've also seen some decide to leave. When you were talking about wanting to start a business and then you decided that it was going to be a Cup Series team, did you have anybody who tried to dissuade you and say, this is not what you want to do? Or did you find support for your endeavor?
Yeah, I mean, I think that you hear some people say, oh, you can end up coming and going. This could cost a lot of money and all that stuff. And I understand the risk. I mean, what really made me feel good about it probably was that Michael's team spent, weeks working on it behind the scenes, looking at the business model, seeing where the NASCAR is currently, where they feel like it's going in the future. And they deemed it a viable model for them. And so that gave me the confidence, because you don't see him diving into many other businesses, right? I mean, he's very, very stingent when it comes to that, because the name and the brand is so important. Their words to me is that we can't go into business and go out 2 years later. That's just not us. That's not going to be what we're about. And so we put a long-term place. I personally do believe NASCAR's new model that's coming out in 22 with the new car. We deem that is viable as well. So all those pieces put together persuaded me more in the fact that this is something I'm confident in. Not only that, if I own it, it's in my hands, right? The success or the failure of it can ultimately fall on me, and I don't want my reputation to be as a failure as a Cup owner. So I'm going to work very, very hard to make sure that this team is successful, whether it be getting sponsors or leveraging partners or things like that. You have to make sure that you build something solid from the ground up. And right now we're building just the foundation, right? I mean, it's just the very foundation, starting with hiring the people that we trust in and believe in, and we'll continue to build this up from there. And I'll make sure that I give my input when I deem it necessary, and I'm also going to listen to the professionals that when necessary, and lean on them to make the right decisions.
Oh, Jim, I think you're on mute.
Yeah, unmute.
Sorry. I know this is probably a long ways off, but do you envision one day being able to have a organization that stands on its own, like without a technical alliance, so to speak, but doing its own thing?
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be a goal. Absolutely. You eventually, we are competitors every Sunday, and we will be next year, and we will be after that. But yeah, you want to be able to, hire all the best people that want to come over to your organization and be able to stand on your own. So I think that would be a great goal for our team in the years to come.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks, Jim. Next, we'll go to Greg Engel. Go ahead, Greg.
Got unmute. Sorry. Denny, as you look forward, you got the alliance and everything. How's it on the sponsorship front? Have you got any interest so far? How tough is it to sell sponsorships and be in this kind of environment we're living in?
I think that we're very blessed to have one of the more iconic people in the entire planet as our team owner. So we're having great meetings. I believe, if anything, in year one we're going to have an inventory problem instead of a sponsorship problem. I think that's one of the unique things that hopefully will make this team successful and will allow it to grow year after year is the fact that we have big companies willing to come on and support this, and whether it be previous sponsors of Michael or people that he knows personally, or someone new, we're able to get meetings that probably other people wouldn't be able to get, and that's very lucky and very good for us and for me, because it will make my job easier going into the future, knowing that hey, you're not only supporting me and Bubba, but Michael Jordan as well. It makes it a little bit easier. So like I said, I think we're going to have more of an inventory problem when it comes to having enough races than we will looking for sponsorship.
I hope so. My follow-up is for Ed. Speaking of sponsorship, obviously one of the reasons Toyota's in motorsports in general is to sell cars. How hard has it been not being able to do at the track stuff? And how hard has it been to help sell cars in general during a pandemic?
Yeah, that's a really good question. When the pandemic really kicked into full gear in March, we had a very difficult time within the company where our plants actually shut down for 9 weeks. So as those of you know, if we're not producing cars, then there's zero revenue stream. And we also have made a decision as a company that we were not going to furlough or lay off anyone. So payroll was still out there all the way on through everyone at the plants. But we worked our way through that. And actually, from an industry perspective, we really have been gaining a lot of momentum on the retail side. And business is actually pretty good on the retail side and has been for the last 90 days. The issue really has been building enough cars. And what is amazing is we have virtually every one of our plants running at 100% capacity or even over by having extra hours and Saturday work going on. The biggest problem that we have as a company right now is we can't build cars fast enough because, and especially some of our super popular stuff, like a lot of our SUVs, because the supply chain still hasn't caught up. So, it's not a matter of assembly and the parts that we build within the plant, it's a supply chain. So on the marketing side, we just really transformed ourselves and did a ton of both linear and digital work. And then we're getting ready to do some experiential marketing at some what we would call pop-ups, and they're not necessarily at racetracks, but in different cities where they still have some population movement around some of the areas of some of the cities. So we're hoping that by the time we get to Daytona next year, that we'll be back and be able to do some experiential marketing and get our products in front of the people again.
Thank you so much, gentlemen. Hi, David. Thanks.
Perfect. Thanks, Greg. Next, we will go to Jacob. Go ahead, Jacob.
Thanks, Lisa. Congratulations, gentlemen, on the announcement today. I've got one question, but I'd like to have all three of you kind of weigh in on it from different perspectives if you can. Was this, in essence, of Toyota's partnership with the team, and given all the history with Denny, was this kind of a natural team partnership and manufacturer partnership, would you guys say, for 2311 to be a Toyota team for 2021 and beyond?
So I guess I can start. I would say the simple answer is yes. As we all know, you all know, we've had a great relationship with Denny since we started racing with Joe Gibbs Racing, and I think that Denny would say, even with not on a press conference where David and I are on there, that he's really had a great experience working with Toyota. It was completely different than what he was used to, but it's been very, very successful for him, both personally and professionally. And so it was a very easy, natural fit. The first time Denny called me was about 11 o'clock on a Sunday night. So I thought he was calling to tell me something was wrong with his car, or there was an engineering issue that I needed to get in the middle of, which normally I don't. And he said, I got to talk to you about something. This is really, really super special. And so that's how the whole thing started. And we're going through the due diligence, I would say it was a pretty easy decision.
David or Denny, do you want to take that one as well?
I'll just piggyback onto to Ed's comment and qualify that it was very natural. Some of the backstory, and Denny probably remembers the conversation that he and I had. It seemed like just the other day. It was maybe a few months ago at the very most, but
I was sitting in a lot of Harris Teeter.
Yeah, and Denny was talking, was talking about, kind of what, just kind of stream of consciousness about what he was going to do, what he would beyond his driving days, and correct me if I'm wrong, Denny, but you said I've particularly through the pandemic when we weren't racing. Because I love golf, but I realized that's not enough. I want to work, and he said exactly the same thing. He just quoted, and whether it's running his family's trailer hitch business or somehow being involved in the sport, but he was already just kind of formulating his thoughts, and I really enjoyed that conversation. And now here we are, about ready to to go racing together. So it's pretty cool. And I'll come back to it. That's one of the earlier considerations. We have had an amazing run with Joe Gibbs Racing. We've done more than we could possibly have hoped for and imagined. Yet we also recognize, as a manufacturer, as an OEM in this sport, we do need, a little bit broader presence. And we have been looking out at the horizon, and this next gen car as really a perfect opportunity to broaden that presence. And so we were already looking and talking to a number of teams. So to have one of our own family members come to us with this type of opportunity, it was, serendipitous.
Yeah, going along with what Dave said, that's the pandemic essentially is what spurred this whole thing with me. I mean, like we all talked about, we had all stay-at-home orders and everything like that. And eventually it's like, okay, this is great for a week. And then I'm just like, well, this is retirement. Like, I've never been able to, we're in the middle of spring, summer, usually it's freezing cold outside. There's nothing to do. And that's when I have time off. But now it's like, well, if I were retired, this is what it would be like. And so immediately I start thinking, well, I'm not going to quit racing anytime soon, because, there's just no way I could be able to do this. I'd have to have some kind of, work outside of my career. And so then the wheels started getting turning. started having different talks and whatnot, and then this thing just came together so quickly. So certainly it is at least 2 to 3 years quicker than what timeline me and David were talking about. But obviously, if you have someone like Michael that is as passionate as he is about the sport, you have to jump on that opportunity right away. And when we did, he said he's in, and he's going to rely on me and my team to make sure to give him great advice when it comes to the ownership side and figure out what we need to invest in and what we don't. And so I'm going to be his guy as far as that's concerned, his insider in the sport. That's what makes this partnership so good, is that his star power, and then you've got me in my knowledge of the sport that hopefully will make for a great ownership group.
Thank you, gentlemen. Congratulations again, and best of luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jacob. Next, we will go to Casey. Go ahead, Casey.
Hey, thanks, Lisa. Hope you all are doing well. I have a question for David and a question for, well, maybe I think David could answer this, but I have a question for Denny as well. David, do you see like we've seen with Furniture Row and with LFR, with getting like in terms of driver development, do you see that with the 2311 team, or do you see another Toyota team possibly coming into the fold, or maybe using someone like the Gaunt brothers or something for that?
Well, certainly that seems to be a popular topic these days, and again, to my earlier comment, one of the reasons why it's important that we expand our footprint in the garage is to put more seats, more Toyota seats out there. We are, continuing. We remain committed to a strong, robust driver development program, and certainly, Denny and I have talked about, as the team grows, we'll have the opportunity to work together to determine, who best from a driver standpoint to work with. So it certainly does present some opportunities, and you could envision all kinds of different pairings: a more senior veteran driver with a younger driver. But it's wide open at this point, and that's what's exciting. We have room to grow, and we have the same vision that this team grows into a top tier, championship caliber organization.
And Denny, looking at the Xfinity trucks, ARCA, do you see who stands out to you among the Toyota camp that you would say, hey, I may want to have this kid as my driver?
I haven't even, I think that there's a lot of talent out there for sure. I think it takes sometimes years to see that. Yeah, I don't know. There's each one of them has flashes and weeks where it's like, wow, this kid's good and can move up to the next level. But it's difficult. We've seen past probably 3 or 4 Xfinity champions, come up to this level, and it is this side of the fence is a whole another ball game. So you have to try to find characteristics in people that not only just being able to perform at the lower levels or the Truck Series Xfinity, but they have to have somewhat of an it factor to make it here on Sundays. It is just so different, and the talent is so different. So it's very hard to analyze. I am a number and statistics guy, so I do kind of play off of that a little bit, and not just results. But when the day comes to expand, I certainly will be looking more intently, and I'm sure I will be next year, on who's the next guy that deserves a shot.
All right. Thanks, Denny. Thanks, David. Thanks, Ed, and thanks, Lisa.
First, thank you, Casey. Next, we'll go to Alex. Go ahead, Alex.
Hey there. My questions are for Denny. You said you had an inventory problem or expect to have more of an inventory problem in this first year. And I was just curious kind of why you said that and what that means.
Well, probably, just not enough races, not enough races in the schedule. We're obviously working on, long-term contracts with our partners now that we're speaking to, trying to, make them 2-3 year deals, longer term. Certainly that's what creates the stability for you to be able to reinvest even more into the race team itself. So an inventory problem is basically saying that, you've got more people interested than you have races available.
And then do you expect to have sort of like a primary sponsor like you have with Fedex, versus piecing together a bunch of smaller sponsorships for individual races?
Well, there's not many FedExes out there. They, those guys, have been with me now for 15 years, and it's just, such a rarity. But I think that you can look at them also and say that, that's a pretty smart company that uses their sponsorship dollars wisely, and they feel like NASCAR is a very viable sport. One of the head marketing guys did an interview last year, I believe, the year before, talked about how much they value their NASCAR program, whether it be entertaining guests, employees, prospective people that are going to ship with them. The B2B, anyone that comes into NASCAR is an opportunity for FedEx to get in front of and do some business to business work. So it really, really works for them on that end. I know that every racetrack that I went to, when we had fans, they were entertaining lots of people. So they really believe in their NASCAR program, and you want to find a sponsor, sorry to be long-winded, but a sponsor like that is looking to be the primary. When you see the number 23 Toyota, you see that same car on the racetrack, and that's what's so identifiable for our car, is that it looks the same every week. And for some people it's boring, but others it's people can identify it. So if you can find a partner that will come on and do 20 races or above, or 18 races or above, over the half the schedule, that's a big home run for you.
Do you expect to be able to land that at this point?
I do.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alex. Next, we will go to Chase. Go ahead, Chase.
Hey, thanks for joining us, guys. This one's for Denny. I know you said this really started thinking about this over the spring when we had the break, the pandemic and all that. But just looking back, like earlier in your earlier stages of your career, did you ever think about like the continuing your legacy outside of the cockpit, being a team owner, as opposed to going to the TV booth or working within the JGR organization?
I think probably about 2 years ago, I had a pretty good inclination that I wanted to stay in the sport in some kind of way or capacity. I didn't know if it was going to be, owning a team or working for NASCAR itself. I don't know, I didn't know what it would be. I think that, I had some discussions and opportunities that were going to be probably thrown my way, but I certainly feel like that this is the best fit for me because, like I say, I know a little bit about the sport, not everything. I know just a little bit about everything. And so, that's a big benefit. And obviously to have a big, star co-owner with you, it makes it a little bit easier. But yeah, I mean, it was about 2 years ago where I said that, this is the sport that I want to, I've invested my whole life to be a race car driver. Well, one day I won't be able to be a race car driver anymore, but it's still the sport that I grew up loving and want to be able to contribute to it outside of being a driver.
Thank you, Denny. Appreciate it.
Okay.
Thanks, Chase. Next, we'll go to Michael. Go ahead, Michael.
Thank you very much. Well, Denny, congratulations. And amidst all this talk about your brand new team, we tend to forget that you have 2 races remaining in this NASCAR Cup season, and you're a favorite in the championship 4. And I know there's been all this talk about this is Denny's year, but with everything that's lining up in your favor with this new race team, and not to mention the last 2 races are tracks that you've won at previously. I'm just wondering, do you feel like everything is finally lining up in your favor this year to finally claim your first NASCAR Cup title?
You know, I think that as tough as 2020 has been on everyone, right? I mean, everyone has felt some pain in one way, shape, or form. You know, it's been a good year for me. It's, you know, I've had a great success on the racetrack with 7 wins, and that's probably a low number for what we probably deserved, but it's been a good year on the racetrack, and I feel like our team's running well. You know, we do have 2 races left. We focus on that. You know, I give myself, I set, you know, really through the whole season, no matter what's been going on outside of my personal, outside of this deal, I set the same days, the same amount of time to prepare for each and every event throughout the year. But yeah, we've got a great opportunity. We're going to a racetrack that's been fantastic for us in the past, and I believe that we can go there and lock up our spot and then go to Phoenix, a place I obviously love and won that race last year. So certainly the stars are aligned for us to make it, and hopefully we can finish the deal off.
And just what was it like seeing that number 23 Toyota finally revealed this morning? At one moment did it sink in? It was like, wow, this is real. This is my team. You know, this is really happening.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, you could touch it, right? It's, you know, before it's just in a digital world and you see renderings and stuff like that, but to be able to put your hand on the fender and say, okay, you know, it's actually in real life now. It definitely is surreal. So I took a minute to just kind of walk around and just kind of let it sink in a little bit. So certainly am excited about it for sure. But my narrow-minded goal is that I've got, you know, in 11 days, hopefully, you know, let's achieve the goal that's right here in front of me, and that's winning a championship from a race.
Thank you. Congratulations and good luck.
All right, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Michael. All right, we will start circling back. Jenna, you're up again.
All teed up for Ed. Ed, when Toyota came in, you guys made a splash by teaming with Michael Waltrip, and then you got Gibbs. You guys like having stars as your partners. Now you have Michael Jordan and Bubba Wallace. Tell me what that does for the Toyota brand.
Jenna, thanks for that question. You know, it's really, really hard to say because we look at each individual program, not only about what it's designed to do for the Toyota brand, but also what type of relationship and partnership that we can have. Because as you know, from covering us, we came in with a completely different model, as you've heard many times before. So I think will Michael Jordan and Dennys team, you know, give some Toyota brand lift? Absolutely, 100%. But I also think the most important part to think about is not only are they coming in and they're going to help the sport along with Toyota, but they're only going to help the sport if they win. So we've seen others come and go throughout the organization, throughout the years in NASCAR. So it's up to us, and it's our primary responsibility to help them win, not only to help promote the Toyota brand, but also to help NASCAR and also continue with the diversification effort that I think is really prudent for the long term for NASCAR.
How do you make sure that they win?
Well, how do we make sure we win? We got to put all of our resources into it in order to try to make sure that they have the best chance of winning, along with equipment drivers, like we do with anything else that we work with. I think, you know, Jenna, the story that David talked about a little bit with Furniture Row, it's been one of those things that's been troubling me a little bit because of the fact that some people have said that, you know, the reason why Furniture won't run out of business was because of Toyota and because of Joe Gibbs, when in fact, you know, what they were doing prior to our relationship with them versus what they did post our relationship with them tells a completely different story. And I don't think Bob would have left the sport either hadn't it been for his business having a big decline relative to, you know, what happened within COVID. So those are the type of messaging, I think, the type of messaging from a Toyota perspective that I try to make sure that gets out so that we can continue to tell the real story about Toyota's involvement in racing.
Thank you, Ed.
Sure.
And the other thing is too is there is no guarantees. You can't make sure anyone wins. It takes every piece has got to be right. You got to have fantastic drivers. You have to have great crew chiefs. Kyle Busch won his first race of the season with 3 races to go. It's tough to win. So there are no guarantees in this, but all you can do is make sure that you put the best product you have available and the best people that you can hire under your roof. And that's what we're going to try to do.
Denny, is Michael going to be okay if you don't win, if you are in a Kyle Busch situation where it's 3 races to go and you still haven't gotten there?
I think that he understands that this is a building process. I mean, he wants to be competitive. Winning is just a very broad term, which this is one verse one. It's not like a football game.
We can hear you.
This is 1 verse 37. So your odds, you're in a losing business to begin with. Your odds of losing are much greater than they are. So I just think that you have to make sure that do everything. Is he expecting to win in the first half of the season? I don't know that there's realistic expectations that he believes, but I do believe he thinks that we can go out there and win in our first year. Yes.
Thanks, Denny. And your connection's kind of spotty, FYI.
So I'm running off my phone cellular service. It's bad. Sorry.
Just stay in one spot.
I haven't moved.
Denny, now that you're a team owner, you need to step up to some high-class, high-dollar internet service for all these type of calls. So when you're a driver, you could get away with the spotty stuff. Not anymore. Just for the record.
I'm locked up at home. Okay, I have no power, which means no internet. I'm running off of my telephone service connected to my computer. The fact that I'm talking to everyone is amazing in the first place.
One word for you, Denny. Generator. Go ahead.
All right. So while Ed is harassing Denny, we will head to our next question from Bob. Go ahead, Bob.
Denny, seems that this round of the playoffs has been almost like your self-service. Do you feel do you feel confident about Martinsville, and would you be shell-shocked if like Truex wins and Keselowski beats you by a couple of spots and you end up out?
I'd be disappointed for sure. I think that our team deserves to be in the Final Four, but it's up to us to perform at this time of the year to get it done. Now, I can't help the breaks that we've gotten. Damaged car Sunday killed us. I had no speed left in the car. I think we were lucky to finish 9th or whatever we were. Kansas, we obviously had a race-winning car. Las Vegas, we had a race-winning car. There's just we're contenders when nothing happens, but things happen in the sport. You're racing against other people, and sometimes their mistake turns into your bad luck. But it's up to us to get it done. And my goal and anticipation is that we're going to go this weekend and win.
And for David, Tony Stewart made some comments about your driver development program last week. I'm curious, do you see Denny's team as a potential landing spot for some of those drivers? And is there anything that you want to kind of say in response to what Tony said?
Well, here's what I'll say, and I'll keep it brief because I could go on forever on this topic. Number one, we're delighted that Ford has made the decision to invest in driver development. I am certainly not going to judge their model or critique it. I'm just glad that they're there because that's a win for the industry and a win for these young kids that we're both motivated to help. I am quite comfortable. We are committed to the program, the investment that we've made. We have never held back a driver that has been in our program that's wanted to do something else or drive someone else's car? Never. And we've given drivers the opportunities that they would not have had. Christopher Bell would not be sitting in the 20 car next year, one of the best teams in the entire sport, were it not for Toyota. Eric Jones, Daniel Suarez are sitting on national championships from NASCAR, largely as a function of the relationship that we have and the help that we provided these young kids. So as I said earlier, certainly one of the motivations for us to expand our footprint in the garage and to partner with Denny and Michael is over time to add some seats for some of these young kids. Someone asked the earlier question, I'll speak very plainly. We don't have anybody right now that's ready to go into a cup car in terms of our young kids. And the other thing I'll just remind everybody is most of these young kids who look like rock stars at 13 are never going to sit in a NASCAR cup car. Never. It's just, you know, the ladder narrows the higher you, and it becomes much more competitive. As Denny referenced earlier, the jump between Xfinity and Cup, it is immense. It is immense, and most kids aren't going to make it. Having said that, what I'm most proud of is that every one of these young people that we have a relationship with, and we have a relationship with their families. We treat them with respect. They're not a commodity. They're not indentured servants, and that's just our culture. So we're excited to have some extra seats down the road when we have some folks that earn their way into an opportunity.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bob. Let's go to Kelly. I know you haven't had a question yet. Go ahead, Kelly.
Thanks, Lisa. This, I guess, could be for any of you who want to tackle it. For excited as people will get, outsiders will get about this team, there's the critics that will say, well, Bubba in a cup car hasn't done anything. And I know you all have spoken about how you expect to contend, turn this into a championship team. So I just wanted to give anybody who wanted to tackle this the chance to talk about your belief in Bubba. I know he's won in Toyota equipment before, and just why he's the driver that's going to be kind of the face of this team for now.
Well, I think from the ownership perspective, you have to be realistic, right? I mean, I think that I look at someone like, now it's a little different, but like a Brad Keselowski, right? When he was running in his parents' equipment 3 laps down, I remember I'll never forget, I'm leaving Mexico City and I'm sitting next to Dave Rogers on the plane. He said, well, where's the next you coming from? And I said, Brad Keselowski. He's like, he runs 3 laps. I was like, yeah, but you just see something that you can pick from, and you find something. It's not his results. He hadn't had any results, but there was something that we saw, or that I saw as a driver, that was capable of, given good equipment, he could contend. And that's kind of what I see in Bubba, is that I know what his cars are capable of in my mind. And I see, his aggressive moves and what he's able to get out of it. And I see that if he had a faster car, he probably would be much, much higher and much better and probably contend. And he even contended, quite a few times this year for race wins. So that is what I saw personally.
And I'll add on to that. As referenced earlier, we look at this as a bit of a reunion with Bubba. We started our relationship when he was with Rev Racing, as Ed mentioned, and on to Kyle Busch Motorsports. He proved early on that he could win at each level, provided he had the right equipment, the right people, the right mentoring, around him, and so, you know, I think once he left Joe Gibbs Racing a few years back, um, I don't know that he's had the complete package to put him in position to compete on a more consistent basis. And one of the hardest things in this sport, particularly for a young driver, and I'm not, this isn't about Bubba, this is just a generalization, but it's to say no at certain times. It's what Matt DiBenedetto did a couple of years ago when he said, you know what, I'm going to sit outside of this particular race car because it's not furthering me as a driver, and I'll wait till the right opportunity comes along. And it's hard to do. So we're just again delighted that we have a shot to pick up where we left off. And Bubba, you know, he's got, you know, he's gonna have some pressure, and that's the pressure that he loves to have. So it's gonna be a great story.
Perfect. We'll try to get to the last two here. Jordan, did you have a follow-up? Go ahead.
I did. I apologize. I had technical difficulties earlier, so my mistake. And this may have been answered, so again, I apologize. Danny, you had mentioned last week you guys were going to announce a crew chief this week for the team. Can you reveal who the crew chief is going to be? And is it going to be somebody, if you can't, is it going to be somebody within the JGR Toyota family?
Mike Wheeler will be the crew chief.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks, Jordan. And we'll get to our last question from Casey. Go ahead, Casey.
Thanks, Lisa. My question's for David or Ed. In the next few years, I know you currently have 6 Toyota teams right now. Where do you see, I know you guys want to grow more, have more Toyotas on the racetrack. In like 3-4 years, what's the number you want to see coming? How many Toyotas you want to see on the racetrack?
I'll start that by saying that, as you all have heard me say multiple times, our general philosophy is to have fewer teams, cars. We don't believe that we need a proportionate number just based upon how many cars start the race. What we've come to learn and appreciate is that if we're able to mass our resources across fewer higher caliber cars, that becomes very effective. As Ed will back up, my budget doesn't extrapolate forward just by us adding cars. So the balance is where we sit today, where I'm the first one to say that we're undersubscribed to a number that gives us a better chance as a manufacturer. Honestly, one of the things I'm very proudest of is the year that we won a manufacturer championship with, I think it was 5 cars. I don't know that that's ever been done before, but we had every one of those cars win, I believe that year, at least 3 races. That is so hard to do. So, you know, I'd like to have, you know, about 3 organizations who are able to stand on their own, who are fiscally healthy, who have the caliber of people and drivers that are capable of winning races. So we do look at 2311 Racing as one of those cornerstones, and I think there's room for another organization. But again, it's finding the right chemistry at the right time, the right sponsorship. It's something you have to, you know, that we're very intentional about.
Have you talked to the Gaunt brothers about possibly, will they be back next year? Have you heard from them?
We're working with Marty very closely. Marty is still working on his plan for next year. Honestly, you know, he, like many other teams, he's been caught out by the timing of this pandemic and what it's done to the delay of the new car. So, better you talk to Marty directly, but my guess is he'll run a bit of a part-time schedule next year and look to the future. Certainly, we've had a great relationship with Marty for the past decade plus, and we'd like nothing better to see him, expand his presence and really invest as a team owner at the Cup Series, Cup level.
Thanks, David. Thanks, Lisa.
We're going to try to get one more in. I saw Jenna throw her hand up. I know we're up against time, so we'll try to get you in real quick, Jenna.
Thanks, Lisa. Denny, if Wheels is the crew chief, do you have a competition guy?
We're working out front office stuff, right now. Obviously, as you know, I mentioned we had somebody that's working behind the scenes right now. He's working on all the front office staff, so not at the moment. We're working on it.
Thanks, Denny.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for your time. Thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Again, we'll have the recording available if you would like it. Give me a little bit to get it all downloaded and put it up on Dropbox, and I'll be happy to share the link. It'll also go to NASCARmedia.com if you want to look for it there. So thank you, everyone. And again, thank you, gentlemen, so much for all your time today.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, guys.
Great talking to you.
Thank you.